70 years is a long time, a very long time. And where to start? I think it's important to mention the history of the Davis family in Kenya. My grandfather came here in about 1908. He started the first newspaper. And my father, who was born in 1903, came as a child. And he went to UK for education, which happened to be during the First World War. And then he came back as a young, sort of a teenager, a late teenager, and lived here thereafter. Between the wars, he was an engineer. He started off in coffee farming as an engineer on a coffee farm. And then during the war, he joined the army and worked in Kenya. He was an engineer who looked after basically all the army camp. And while he was looking after these camps, he worked with a little contractor, little plumbing contractor. And after the war, when he got his gratuity, the contractor, who was an old man called Mr. Page, wanted out of the business, and my father was young and ambitious, and he offered my father a partnership. Very soon thereafter, within months, Page left, and so my father then advertised in the newspaper for a partner, and he chose this gentleman called Dick Shirtliff, who at the time was the chief engineer of the Kenya Meat Commission. They agreed to the partnership in early 1946, and the company Davis Shirtliff was formed in 1st of June 1946. My father was a water specialist, and Dick Shirtliff was also an engineer in water, and that was the focus, the initial focus. And interestingly, the initial staff were Italian prisoners of war, who were all artisans, all very good technicians. The initial focus was water supply. In fact, the company was called Hydraulic Engineers. The real focus was boreholes. The company installed and repaired boreholes. It also did water supplies. One of the early jobs being Karen Estates. The water infrastructure was put in by Davis and Shirtliff, and in fact, the water infrastructure at Karen was looked after by Davis and Shirtliff until the late 60s. And he did other jobs. He was big into coffee because of his background, so he built coffee factories. And they did other water supplies. They did Rosslyn, they did Gigiri. Other activities that they started then, the first swimming pools were built in the early 50s. There was demand. My father designed all the equipment, all the filters and pumps and so on. And they did water treatment, a lot of water treatment projects. And basically it was a project-orientated company. Of course, there was turbulence, there was difficulties in the run-up to independence, because after the Italians left, the principal technicians were young Kikuyus who had been trained by the Italians, and then in the mid-50s they had assumed positions of responsibility. It was difficult times, but the company soldiered on, and there was business. And another area that they really developed was the swimming pool business, and built a lot of the institutional pools in the late 50s, early 60s. The schools were investing, Limuru Girls' School, Loreto Convent, Musungari, State House Road, which was Delamere Boys in those days. Then, of course, independence came in 1963, and the country settled down after that. Of course, there was a mass exodus of Europeans, which actually didn't affect Davis and Shirtliff so much. Most of its supervisory staff were Africans, Kenyans, so the company continued quite successfully. The years between 1963 and 1970 were years of steady growth, progress. There was much more investment in the country. There was much more sort of confidence. Also, it was the time when the tourist industry was being developed, and many lodges were being built in the parks. Certainly in the Mara, the first lodges went in, and in Nairobi, of course, the Intercontinental, the Hilton, Serena, and so on were all built around the late 60s, early 70s, and all these projects gave Davis and Shirtliff opportunities. A big initiative that was taken in the mid-60s was the Davis and Shirtliff have been an installer of pumps for many years, which they bought on the local market. The next door neighbour at Davis Shirtliff had imported several pumps from a funny little company called Grundfos, which was this Danish company, which he couldn't sell. And my father saw them, he thought he had a use for them, so he bought them, and they sold, and so he replaced them. And then Grundfos brought out several very revolutionary pumps in the mid-60s, which my father and the company developed. And that's how the Grundfos relationship was established. And that was, I think, 1965. So we're talking now about 50 years of partnership with Grundfos. Also, Davy was established then. Small booster pumps were clearly in demand, and the Davy man came to see father, and father thought they would be appropriate for Kenya, so he started importing them. And so that was really the foundation of the pump business, and that was really a time of extraordinary growth, extraordinary opportunity. And the company did very well in those days. In 1970, Dick Shirtliff wanted to go back to the UK and retire there. So he left, he sold his shares, and he sold his shares to a young Asian engineer who had been working with the company then for nearly 20 years, called Devji Shingadia. And so Devji Shingadia really sort of drove the business from 1970 through those periods of the mid-70s era. My father, of course, was getting older. He was 70 in 1973. And by this stage, he was obviously wondering, he was trying to plan the next phase of his life. I had just graduated. I had just graduated in engineering from Loughborough University, and also I had done an MBA. And I felt that there was more opportunity in Kenya. Also, I'd been born and brought up here, and I wanted to come home, so I did. So after my university, after getting my MBA in 1976, I came back to Kenya and joined the company, working under Devji Shingadia and, of course, my father. I was a sales engineer for several years until the death of my father in 1982. He died at the age of 79, and he left me his shares in Davis Shirtliff. So then I worked in partnership with Shingadia. But him and I had different ambitions. It was difficult also economically then. In the 80s were a particularly difficult time for Kenya. The sort of the late 70s, early 80s. The country was short of foreign exchange, and it was really struggling. And the business, we did well. We made money, but we weren't growing very fast. And I think it's fair to say that I got frustrated. And although Shingadia was a very good man and a very capable man, basically, simply speaking, we had different objectives for the company. And he decided to sell his shares. So in 1990, I bought him out and became the sole shareholder of the company. It was a wonderful opportunity for a person in my position. The company was well established. It was doing well, but it needed modernizing. It needed a lot of work doing to it. So I took over in 1990, and I was very determined and ambitious that the company should grow. And so we did a number of other initiatives. We introduced new products, we introduced expanded water treatment equipment, and I recruited a new executive team. So really I set the business up to grow, and that we grew very substantially as a consequence. One of the most critical years in DNS's history was 1993. It was a seminal year for the country because that was a year of liberalization, political dissent, and the eventual establishment of democracy and free elections. And then in 1993, and that of course was a fairly turbulent time, but obviously had a successful outcome, and it did improve the general investment and business climate. But before then, Kenya was a restricted economy, especially with respect to forex, and it did seriously affect trading because you could not get the product that you wanted. And so in 1993, the economy was liberalized, and the shilling floated, and one could buy what you liked, and so immediately one could grow one's business with confidence because you could get the product. And that was a seminal year for Davis Shirtliff, and that was the year that we took on the Padrolo franchise, and it was also the year that we started establishing branches, the first one being at Westlands. And over the next 6 or 7 years up to the millennium, we opened a number of branches after Westlands. The next major initiative was Uganda, then Tanzania, and then we opened in Eldoret and in Kisumu. And so we started expanding. We laid the ground, we laid the foundations for the expansion of DNS to the organization that has come today. The next major influence on DNS, external influence, was when Mr. Kibaki became the president and replaced Mr. Moi, and Mr. Kibaki made further economic changes which really set the path for the country to be where it is today. There's no question about it. It was slow to start with, and of course Davis and Shirtliff had benefited hugely from it. So now we've arrived. This is Davis and Shirtliff, and before we go in, I'd just like to explain how these premises have developed. If you pan around, you'll be able to see the premises, the front of the premises, and the original Davis and Shirtliff. This is now actually 4 units, 4 industrial units, and the original one was here, where my car is in front of, And then the next 2 were bought in 1975, and then in 1995 we took possession of the 4th one. But of course they were all different buildings in those days, and so what we did about 5 years ago, we knocked the whole front down and harmonized it. We rebuilt the whole of the front of the premises, and obviously the offices behind. And so now it looks like one building. So now here we are in the original building site, the original premises. The whole place has been completely rebuilt, although there are remnants of the original offices and the original workshops back there, but either side has been rebuilt. This is now the sales, retail sales area. We've got the stores at the back and the service and workshops over there. In fact, this whole site has been absolutely completely demolished and rebuilt, but there is there's one item which, almost for sentimental reasons, remains from the original building that my father built in 1955, and I will just go up and have a look at it. And this is it, the original banister that my father had put in, and I can remember as a 7-year-old boy being on my haunches just here on this landing here, watching the carpenter, who was a man called Govind, make this actual corner. And so this is almost a sentimental part of Davis and Shirtliff for me. This, of course, is the entrance. Originally we had the door there, and some time ago we took it out and made this as the reception area. There's one thing I'd like to particularly point out, and that is the list here of staff who have worked for 25 years for the company, and it goes right back, of course, to my father, who started in 1946 with Dick Shirtliff, and now 90 people have worked for Davis and Shirtliff for 25 years. This is our showroom, which has had many metamorphoses over the years, and it's our key area for selling, and where we demonstrate all our products. The effect here is obviously what we call the wall of pumps. So people come in and they get this overriding impression of the number of products that we sell and the variety of products that we can offer. Tom, how are you? We have here Tom Armstrong, who's an old customer of ours, or a very well-established and much appreciated customer. All right, you're working with
Yeah,
Philip.
we're building our first system there.
Oh, good. Is it working, the relationship as far as you're...
No, it's good.
Good,
Thanks,
good,
Alex.
good. Here we are in the workshop. Of course, service is a very important aspect of Davis Shirtliff's focus. And so we have this extensively equipped workshop where we repair all our pumps. We obviously have got organised repair facilities and, of course, most importantly, test facilities. So every pump that is repaired here is tested. Here we are in the workshop. This is a new area. We took it over in 2007 as we needed to expand our manufacturing facility. So in here we do steel fabrication. We've got extensive steel fabrication equipment, and over the other side we do fiberglass manufacture. And the key product in the fiberglass factory is our filters. And we're very proud of the fact that the other day we surpassed 15,000 units. So it's been some time, it's been about 20 years, so we've made 15,000 swimming pool filters, which actually is a filter for most swimming pools in the country. Of course, our products have got much more sophisticated over the years, and this is an example of one of our more sophisticated products. It's a fire set, entirely designed and made here. Particularly the control equipment has all been done in-house. And I now walk towards the fiberglass area, and we're making here about 2,000 filters a year. And you can see some of the filters in production. But we make other products. We make chemical dosage units. We make tanks for hot water heaters. So we have a very wide range of products that we make in this area. And this is our high-tech area, should I say. An important business for us is water treatment. And there are two particular technologies that we're focusing on at the moment. One is reverse osmosis, and the other is ultrafiltration. And our advantage in the market is that we actually assemble and make the plants here. We use proprietary units from key units, components from major world suppliers, especially Dow. But then we assemble the plants, we design and assemble the plants here. And in this area you can see a number of plants are ready to be delivered, and some are in the process of being assembled. But it's a very productive area, this, and a very important part of our business, and it's where we are adding value is very important as far as we're concerned, because obviously we're providing employment, and also we can make units cheaper than imported ones, and we can provide, importantly, a service to the units that we manufacture. This is a new departure for us. We're now making all our own control panels, another very productive department, making very sophisticated units, and this is an example of one. This will be a VFD panel designed and manufactured, assembled by us. And as I say, it adds a lot of value to the work that we do and gives us also a competitive advantage. But we're now making about 2,000 panels a year. So it's a very important department to us. As you see, as we enter the workshop, we have these posters all over the premises just to remind all the staff of what our guiding principle, our vision and our mission is. And our guiding principle is that one person working alone is limited in their endeavours. Many people working together have no limit to their achievements. And obviously our mission and vision and mission are also emphasised. And also we really frequently emphasise our values, our three values, which are integrity, quality, and the motto of my old school, which is Altiora Petter, which means I seek higher things, which is obviously a focus on change, improvement, moving forward all the time. And that really is an important principle and focus for the company. And it's why one of the main reasons why we have been successful. One of the key areas of investment of the company is in our stocks, and we're now in one of our many warehouses. We have about 6 or 7 warehouses. We have about £1 billion worth of stock throughout the group, which is about $10 million, and really it's the heart of the operation. We are principally, although we're engineers, we're water, but actually essentially we are a distribution company. We purchase product from around the world. We have major suppliers. You can see here Pedrolo, also Grundfos is another very important supplier. And of course we have our own brand, Daylif, which you see here. These are quality products that we have developed and introduced in the market over the last few years and are proving very successful. The stocks are critical to the operation, and the efficient distribution and consignment of them is critical, and of course and it supports our branch network. And this has been a key strategy over the last 10 or 15 years or so, that we have expanded regionally. We now have nearly 50 branches around the region in 7 countries, and most of the core stock is supplied from here. So what we do is we bring the stock into Nairobi, and then we distribute it to the various subsidiaries around and branches around the region. So as I say, it's a very important part of our operations as a stock holding. We've moved out of the stores now into our logistics yard, and this is where our dispatch is from here, and the supply function is up there. This premises we bought about 5 years ago, and we extensively have upgraded it, modified it, and the latest development at the group is this office block, this magnificent office block here, which is just finished. We're going to be inaugurating it next week, in 2 weeks' time, and this is going to be for the logistics. It's also the first floor is a canteen, the second floor is a training and HR centre, and the top floor will be offices as well. So very important that this is a very important facility for us, and it's enabled us to grow. And I think what is important is that the acceleration of the growth over the last 10 to 15 years. I said we have 50 branches. I think probably 35 of them have been, in fact more, 40 probably. We had 10 at the turn of the century, at the millennium. Probably 40 branches we have opened in the last 15 years, and it has accelerated in the last 5, and even it's accelerated in the last 1. And to give you some sort of idea, we now are selling about 120,000 pumps a year, and in 2000 we were selling 10,000. So the business has grown, and it couldn't have grown without this distribution area. It's been fundamental to the resource base, so that we can supply the demand that is in the market. But also, I'd just like to mention this new truck here. We have 7 or 8 borehole trucks, and we've now got this new design which will greatly increase the capacity for us to repair boreholes. But we're very proud of it. It stands out. It's certainly branded well, and we're expecting it to make a big contribution to the business.
Yeah,
hi Penny. Hi Doreen. This is the reception. This is my PA and David, my colleague's PA. Just as I go into my office, a comment. This is pictures of our founders, Eddie Davis, my father, and Dick Shirtliff, just to remind us of who was responsible for all this in the first place. So as we can see, we've come a long way. 70 years is a long time. I have been working for the company for 40, and now it is my turn to move on. The company has always been very progressive. We've been proud of the fact that we have led the industry. We've made a very wide contribution in the various aspects of our activities. And of course, this has all accelerated in the last 10 or so years as the company has grown and widened our footprint. The future, I will be retiring, not to become, I'm going to stay involved in the company as a chairman, but I shall be handing over to David Gitendi, who's my colleague, who is the Deputy CEO at the moment, and also the rest of the management team. My two sons are also in the business, and they will ultimately take greater responsibility. But we live in a very dynamic environment. Africa is growing. Africa is the place to be. The Kenyan economy is growing, and the regional economy is growing hugely. And of course, one of the biggest requirements is infrastructure. And one of the most important aspects of infrastructure is water. And that's where we come in. And we can see ever-increasing opportunities for the company in the future. And we're a big company now. We're 600 people. But I can see that in 5 years' time, there's every possibility that we'll be, again, double the size. So although we've come a long way, it's been a long journey, but it's really just the beginning. And there's an awful long way to go, a lot more opportunity, and a lot more to do. And so I have great confidence in the team that we're taking over, that Davis and Shirtliff will continue to be as successful as it has. And I look forward, I will not be there, but I'm sure when we reach our centenary in 30 years' time, we shall be a very, very large and an even more successful company.